Welcome back to another episode of the CyberVault. Today I'm joined by Noam Brosh. Noam is the CISO at Hunters Security, and Hunters are changing how organizations think about threat detection and response, specifically making SIEM truly work at scale for modern security teams. Now, Noam brings deep expertise in both the technology and the strategy CISOs need to navigate today's evolving landscape. In this episode, we're going to break down what SIEM really is, how next-gen SIEM compares to legacy solutions, why some companies are still holding back, and how the shift in CISO backgrounds, whether that's from deeply technical to GRC-oriented, is going to change the way these tools need to deliver. But before we dive into all of that, Noam, it is great to have you on. Why don't you maybe kickstart the episode and give us a little bit more of an in-depth introduction to yourself?
Cool. Thanks so much. Glad to be here. I actually started my career in the IT and the information technology department about 25 years ago. I started as a system and network administrator, and I made my way up to DevOps, infrastructure, engineering, architecture. Eventually, I ran some big data centers, and I was in charge of several production environments worth several billions for big companies, mostly in the corporate. And about 8 years ago, I completely changed my role to security, to information security. I've always dealt with the security products, whether I was the system administrator or network administrator before. It was, configuring the firewalls, or hardening the operating systems, dealing with the switches in terms of security. So this eventually led to me becoming a CISO about 8 years ago. Kind of
Awesome.
in a nutshell.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the introduction. I'm very excited to have you on today. So, let's start at the beginning, because for anybody that's listening, when people hear SIEM, they often think about things, just like log management, for example. If you were going to really break this down, how do you define SIEM today?
So the SIEM today, the market is still, I would say, split in the middle. There is the legacy SIEMs, which is all the SIEM platforms that everybody knows, such as Splunk, QRadar, ArcSight, the big three. They've been in existence for 20 years or more. They also started as log collectors, by the way, and they became a SIEM. I would say, about 15, 20 years ago, they turned into becoming a SIEM. And the other part of the market, which is a growing market, would be the next-gen SIEMs. I would say that the big difference between those is the costs. Next-gen SIEMs are way more cost-effective than the legacy SIEMs. They work in a different way. So if you're asking me, again, what's the difference? It's mostly, being cost-effective and being more accessible to organizations, because SIEMs are usually the most expensive tools that CISOs have. Those are the tools that at the end of the year, you need to decide what you're doing with them. Are you extending? Are you minimizing? What are you doing? So those are the tools. And I think they're also some of the most important tools you have after EDR and some other tools that you're using. SIEM is definitely something that every organization should have, whether you're an enterprise organization or SMB.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and if we were to look at kind of like that next gen SIEM, from like the user standpoint or a CISO standpoint, outside of like cost and things, are there actual like visual or kind of differences in the ways that you're interacting? Like, does it impact kind of the day-to-day from the user perspective?
So the work, the daily work of the SOC teams is going to be the same. It actually doesn't differ. The difference is, again, if we're talking about, it all comes to cost and budget in the end, but I'll give you some examples. So old legacy SIEMs are using events per second. That used to be the cost model. You would pay on the amount of events per second. So if you would imagine you have several dozen systems, each one of them sends millions of events per second. This used to be the cost model and used to be quite expensive. About 10 years ago, the SIEM market moved a bit into the storage area instead of events per second. They decided to use storage instead. So Microsoft was actually one of the first with Sentinel to go and say, okay, you're not going to pay us per events per second. You're going to pay us by the volume of data that you're bringing in. But as the volume of data each year increasing, that also made it very expensive. And then came next-gen SIEMs like Hunters and others, which said, you know what, this is not it's not possible. Big organizations can have SIEMs, and it's still very expensive. Small organization cannot have one. What are we going to do? How are we going to make it cost effective? And the difference is by using data lake or data lake warehouses such as Databricks or Snowflake. They would give you the storage space and the compute power in order to run your analytics. So you're going to get everything at the same place at a lower cost than you would be paying Cisco, if you'll be paying Pano, any other vendors that purchase the legacy SIEMs. Another big difference would be in terms of the sources of data, the integrations that you bring in. So if I were to work with Microsoft and Sentinel, for anything Microsoft, I wouldn't be paying anything. That would be part of the package of the SIEM that I'm taking. But if I was bringing in Fortinet, if I was bringing in Cisco, if I was bringing in Okta or Wiz as data sources, they would be charging me for those integrations as well. So I wouldn't just be paying for the storage, but also for the integration and the storage coming from a third party. Some other differences, if you want to integrate a SIEM now in the old way, in the legacy SIEMs, that would be probably a minimum of 6 months per medium-sized organizations, because you have to train your staff on the product, you have to create the rules and the detectors. That takes a long time until you build and customize everything to your need. And again, I would say in a medium-sized organization, 6 months. In a big enterprise, that could be up to 24 months. So it really depends on what you're bringing in. In the next gen SIEM market, we're talking about weeks to months of going up and running. So you have out-of-the-box detectors. Of course, you can do the customization, but you can get up and running within matters of weeks. If you connect your EDR, you'll be getting your sources running within minutes. I mean, if you connect your, CrowdStrike or Sentinel-1, you'll start seeing events right away. And that's one of the biggest differences. And also a huge difference, and I've mentioned the cost effective before. One of the biggest issues, and I mentioned it earlier in the conversation, is okay, so I'm as a CISO, September is coming, October is coming, it's the end of the year, I need to work on my budget, I need to decide what I'm going to do. Am I going to keep my current sources in the SIEM at the way they are? Do I want to add a few of the systems that IT added over the years, or HR or marketing, or do I want to reduce it? And usually most CISOs, when they get to the end of the year, they have to cut back on some of the sources. They have to say, okay, I'm going to keep my EDR, I'm going to keep my Active Directory, I'm going to keep my Okta, my identity, but all those SQL servers and all those, 1Password, I'm not sure I need it, so I'm going to cut back because it's going to cost me a lot of money. A lot of next-gen SIEMs do not look at the integrations and the sources that you bring in. They're agnostic to it. Just bring whatever you want, and the cost model changes to per asset management. So it depends on the number of instances and number of services you can bring in. It's a completely different model. I would say those are the big differences between next-gen SIEM and legacy SIEMs. Oh, and I just remembered there's another flaw with legacy SIEMs, and that's usually your data. So every organization that goes with Splunk, every organization that goes with QRadar, your data is locked in. Meaning, okay, I've had a good run, 5 years with Microsoft Sentinel, with with QRadar. That's great. I saw a new type of platform that I want to use as a SIEM, and I want to move my data. And most of the places, most of the old Splunk, QRadar, and the rest will not let you move the data. You are locked in. They have your data, and there's nothing you can do about it. You cannot move it away. Most of the next-gen SIEMs would allow you to migrate the data wherever you want. You can take it with you in a specific format and move it away to wherever you want to go. Those are the main differences, I would say, between the legacy SIEMs and the next-gen ones.
Yeah, really nice breakdown there as well. I think it's really interesting because despite so many of the advances that the kind of the next gen SIEMs have, there still seems to be this hesitancy for a lot of organizations to kind of adopt next gen SIEMs. And even more bizarrely, the sense that one of the biggest, I think, challenges that CISOs often deal with is budget. and where they can spend their money and how much money they have. And obviously, we talk about the fact that next-gen SIMs are much more cost-effective. I mean, why would you think that there are so many companies that have that hesitation to move on from their legacy systems?
So, being a part of a big organization for corporate and most of my career, I can completely relate. It usually relates to your vendors. So, if I'm working with Cisco, for example, and I have their SIM or any other type of umbrella, or whatever I'm using their switches. So I would tend to look within what they're offering me in existence and using unification instead of going and buying another system. So if I'm using, I don't know, 10 products in Cisco, 5 products in Microsoft, I would probably go to them and say, okay, can I please try your SIM? I want to see what it's like. And that's another fine example of why business sometimes wins over effectiveness or even security perspective, because the company would probably like to go with an existing vendor such as Microsoft or such as Cisco or Fortinet or CrowdStrike. Businesses tend to stay with their existing vendor instead of going with new ventures with new vendors. So I've done it the same. Like, I would try some POCs or POVs on other products, and in the end, my business would say, "Wait, we're already working with Microsoft. Why are you going looking somewhere else?" And then Microsoft would hear that I went to Pano, and they would say, "Oh, wait a second, we'll give you a discount. We'll give you a really big discount just to stick around with us because you're already using everything else." So that's usually what wins the deals, unless the security teams really prefer the other product and are really willing to push for it. I always say you need to pick your battles. So if it's important enough, go for it. But most big businesses tend to stay with what they know. Yeah.
And do you think what are the potential negative side effects that are then going to impact these businesses that are looking for? Because arguably it sounds like the easiest solution there are, okay, there's a unified product, we can get a discount on it. You probably feel like that's the easiest pathway to go, especially at a big enterprise. I mean, for anybody that's listening to that and saying, well, yeah, we kind of fit that bill, but like you say, it's just an easier way to go. What are the negative impacts, especially whether it's right now or what you can kind of see happening over the next several years?
So in the SIEM market, whether it's a big organization, information security department, or a small one, it's all about the findings. It depends what you find. A lot of SIEMs are having trouble orchestrating between all the sources. Building a story. If uh, if there's an incident or a breach or anything happens, and I can see it as a story in the SIEM platform, which makes my life easier trying to understand what happened. That's really important. So if somebody sent a phishing email, and through that phishing email, something was installed on a workstation, and that workstation was then going to production and accessing some secrets or some, I don't know, crown jewel servers, I want to be able to see all of those from all the systems together. A lot of SIEMs don't let you correlate stories, and some SIEMs do. I think that the finding, from my experience, is the most important feature when you are trying to prove yourself as a SIEM. And usually the findings are the ones that are going to win the deal or not. Because if the information security team finds something that they're unaware of, or they know that they have some vulnerabilities and some SIEMs find it and some SIEMs don't, that's going to be, exactly where they push and want to go. Um, the negatives, I don't know. I mean, I'm looking at AI currently as kind of a negative because I have to deal with it on a daily basis. I mean, the past 6 months with AI. I mean, I've been dealing with AI just like everyone for the past couple of years, but it just seems to be, going and growing everywhere. The last 6 months were not like the last 18 months. It's just insane what's going on with all the AI. And I think that a lot of organizations, specifically in the cyber security industry, are just running to integrate AI within the tools. I think also in the SIEM market, the next gen SIEM market, it's also been done. We also have AI tools, but again, it really depends on how you implement it and what you do, because there's not enough regulation out there for AI. The EU did a great job last year, but I don't think the US is following. and the rest of the world usually follows the US. And it's like the Wild West out there when it comes to AI. There's every person nowadays in a company. It doesn't have to be a developer. It can be HR. It can be marketing. Everybody's using AI tools, on their phones, on their desktops. Developers are integrating AI to the code. It's just insane. So to me, it's kind of a negative right now. I mean, I definitely see the benefit. I definitely see the progress. I see it's coming. Um, but it's also a negative. I don't think everybody can handle it. And that goes the same for the C market. The AI going in is actually at the same time making it very effective, but at the same time, I've seen on many tests that the human link is very important. So I would say that that's kind of a negative the next couple of years, unless there's some sort of regulation coming in. I can tell you that I'm a member of several CISO groups that we are always running POCs and POVs on on security solutions for AI, and it's just frightening us all the time because the solutions cannot keep up with the AI going forward. It's just that every solution that we see is unable to patch something new that's coming. So, oh, you heard about this company? Yeah, it's a great solution, but it doesn't resolve, what happened last week. Oh, okay. So, and that's kind of, for me, I look at it as a negative right now because it's very, very hard to follow the AI in terms of security.
Yeah. And you kind of to evolve on from that, because especially if you look at things like AI adoption, actually, I think this is something that's probably going to be really relevant to this next question, because we're seeing a lot more CISOs come from the GRC background, not necessarily that really hardcore technical, people that have been there building or, whatever it may be. And I think kind of that's, it's got a lot of benefits for the fact that somebody can have quite a holistic perspective and truly understand the regulations within the space. But when we're looking at things like SIEM, how does this shift affect the way that it needs to be built and delivered? Is it leveraging tools like AI to make it a bit more automated and user friendly for individuals that are maybe slightly less hands-on technical?
Definitely. There's several types of CISOs. You have technical CISOs coming from the technical background. You have, like you mentioned, GRC CISOs, coming from risk and assessment departments, coming from the legal departments, compliance CISOs. There's many types of CISOs, even financial CISOs, by the way. So it really depends on the background where you're coming from. But at the same time, if you have a big team or a good department of information security, then the deputy CISO or the information security team leader, they should be the technical ones that should be able to implement and integrate the SIEMs. Next gen SIEMs are way easier to integrate to those who don't have a technical background. It just makes it a lot easier. Just like coming from the networking world, it's I can compare it to working with Imperva and working with F5. So for Imperva, for F5, you need to know what you're doing. If you just give the F5 to the I don't know, DevOps or the networking people, they need proficiency in training specifically on this product. If you give Imperva, every developer can work with it. It's very, very easy for them. It's just a few clicks and gone. So next gen SIEMs are built to be deployed with smaller teams, not just big ones. And the easy access and the easy deployment makes it way faster to, again, like I said before, go get up and running. I think that GRC CISOs or any type of CISO using next gen SIEMs, it's way easier than trying to integrate Splunk or ArcSight, for example. ArcSight, you need to know what you're doing. There's no way you'll be able to give to somebody without experience. So yeah, definitely that's one of the benefits. And in those areas, AI can definitely help. It can help a small SOC team to be more efficient, tier one, tier two. But like I've mentioned before, I think that the human link, human intervention, the judgment of alerts and those kind of things still need to be human because AI is not perfect and can still make mistakes. So I would hold my horses before automating everything into a SOAR kind of system. It exists, by the way, in next-gen SIEMs as well. But I would wait a bit before doing it. But it can definitely assist, yeah.
And I think to kind of go specifically into hunters in a bit more detail as well, because to add on to that, you guys have been vocal about replacing the traditional, the legacy SIM workflows. And, if we were to look at the evolution of what the SIM is going to look like over the next several years, I mean, from kind of, what you guys are doing at Hunters, what are your predictions, or what's kind of on, I suppose, the roadmap or the trajectory for your guys' platform?
So the market currently is going to a more automated SOC platform in general, to SOC teams being automated. Just like I mentioned, tier one, tier two. It can definitely help with resources in terms of teams and people, just like AI tools in any other field. So it seems like that a lot of companies, recently in RSA and in Black Hat, we've seen a lot of SOC platforms being utilized with AI. So you actually see SOC platform and AI, SOC platform and AI. You're trying to put the automation into the SOC platform as well, but it really depends on how you're using it. So in Hunters, we are using, we call it Pathfinder. This is a project that actually helps you determine automatically, looking at the alerts and telling what is critical, what is not critical, what do you need to do, what you don't need to do. And it really helps to lower the amount of time you're spending on alerts and investigations. And that's something that, a lot of companies have been trying to do over the years. I can definitely say that in Hunters we've already had it, but now we've enhanced it with the AI capabilities. And we are also working on basic SOAR capabilities. Nothing too fancy, just, I don't know, a user tried to log in 15 times and wasn't able to, so you're able to block him right away. Those kind of things, nothing too complicated. But it's amazing to see in the testing with some of our customers and clients, the conclusion that sometimes says, okay, this is malicious. We had this huge story, a lot of things. This is malicious. You need to take a look at it. And in our pilots, it was just amazing to see that it was 99.9% correct, which is amazing. So I think that SIEM, next gen, and legacy companies should definitely deal with more how to implement AI within the system instead of the SOC teams themselves. That's definitely something that I would say. So we're not looking at exactly making the SOC team more effective, but more into the alerts, which eventually will lead to the fact that SOC teams will have more time to more resources to invest into other investigation or anything else needed.
Sounds like there's definitely exciting times ahead. And I think the thing about this landscape right now is you have to evolve pretty quickly because technology is advancing at a rate it's unprecedented. Like you said earlier in the episode, the past 18 months has looked very different to the past 6 months just because of how quickly people are able to bring out new tools. Again, like you say, whether they're always solving the relevant problem is a different story, but I suppose that's an episode on its own. So to close out then, because I think there's been a lot of valuable insight to unpack here, but for a CISO or a security leader that's been listening and they feel like they're stuck on an old SIM, what is the first step that they can take to modernizing that without blowing everything up, without it kind of being a bit too overwhelming, I suppose?
So first of all, if you're looking at the legacy SIEM, I would definitely one of the things you will have to do after what you're deciding to do is to go to a business committee and tell them how much money you're going to save them by just moving to a different platform. That's usually the case. You need to look at all of the sources that you have. You need to be able to minimize it and be cost effective. Because there's no reason to pay so much money for an old legacy SIEM if you can get a next gen one. And it doesn't have to be. I would say it doesn't have to be Hunters. There's plenty of other next gen SIEMs out there, but it can definitely be more effective. You can use smaller teams. You can spend less money and get more in terms of sources, in terms of detectors, and modernizing. I would say that the moment you move away from a legacy SIEM, such as one of the big three, and you move into a next gen SIEM, I think the difference is huge. It's so much simpler, the UI, how the teams are working, less people involved. Detectors are already there. You don't need to. The training is minimal. I mean, I think that the cost effectiveness is huge, and I think that every company that are using legacy SIEM should definitely try a POC or a POV on the next gen SIEM just to see the differences, because you can save so much money and time on just moving away. And I honestly, I was blown away when I saw Hunters for the first time, because I'm coming from the world of those big three, and I've used them the majority of my career. And it's amazing to see that there's a different approach, there's a different way um, to look at things. That there's a different vector to go and implement. So yeah, I think that's the way to modernize. Just try different solutions, see where the market is going, and I don't think you'll be disappointed. I'm a very big believer in POCs and POVs. In one of the companies that I worked at, again a corporate, we used to do dozens of POCs every month. I think in every interview that I do, I say it. I'm a big believer, and I try to do it nowadays as well. It gives you the edge to know what's the innovation out there, what's the new technology. And when I saw Hunters for the first time, I was blown away. It was, oh my God, it's a whole different perspective, and way better. So definitely try different tools, new tools, and try next gen sims. That's the future.
Great advice to be closing out on there. And Noam, this has been a great episode, and thank you so much for joining us and walking through why I think arguably, we could say that SIM's at a bit of a crossroads right now, but it's clear that the shift from legacy to next gen is more than just tech upgrades. And I think it's been a great episode to touch base on why modern CISOs can kind of really leverage the landscape outside of and while thinking of GRC and security outcomes. But again, thank you for joining us here. To our listeners, as always, don't forget to subscribe. Make sure to share this episode with your security peers. Get connected with us on LinkedIn, of course. Get connected with Noam and the team. If you've been interested by what Noam's had to say about Hunters today, please do reach out and find out a little bit more what they're up to over there. But that's it for today. So thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next time for more conversations shaping cyber.